Welcome to Shifting from Grudge to Grit, Grace, and Gratitude. And for those that saw our message, we did have some technical challenges, but we're grateful to be here. I'm just going to press live on Instagram, and obviously, automatically, we will be there on YouTube. So, for everyone listening in, please do engage us on this very important topic, a topic that's quite near and dear to my heart, having experienced it. So let's talk about the topic, and then I'll introduce our guest shortly. The topic for today is unmasking the covert narcissist, awareness to freedom. We are joined by Cassia, for short, Cassia Dodd. Can you see us? Okay, you are there. You froze for a moment there. We will just continue as you freeze or there are technical issues. But welcome. Good to have you here all the way from Zanzibar. So you are on the, if somewhere in the African continent, and I'm also in South Africa. So do introduce yourself, and I will then read a little bit of your bio afterwards.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm so sorry for being late. But as you mentioned, I'm in Africa right now, and sometimes they turn off the power, the electricity, and that's what happened right before we were supposed to start. But I'm back. So my name is Kasia Dodd, and originally I am from Poland. I was born in Poland, but when I was 29, I left to the United States, and I lived there for 22 years. And recently I moved to Eastern Africa. And I am a psychologist trained in Poland and therapist, and I've been doing therapy with people for almost 20 years. Mostly I work with Polish people living outside of Poland who are immigrants in different countries. And I recently I wrote a book called The Chameleon's Game. And this is about my past relationship with a person who turned out to be a covert narcissist. And I use this relationship as a kind of learning lesson and way back to myself. And that's what I'm talking about in the book. And I hope to share some things today.
Well, we're very excited to have you here, and so much so that I was not going to not go live today. So for those that listen to our usual time slot, we are going to stay a little bit longer, and I think it might work out just perfectly because somewhere in the States now, I think it's round about the lunchtime anyway. But I think we're in such a chaotic period in this global state of affairs. It doesn't actually matter what time we start. Time is just an illusion, I suppose. So I'm going to read a little bit more of what the topic is going to be, especially for those that have just joined us, possibly. So, covert narcissism doesn't always look loud or obvious. It can be subtle, confusing, and deeply destabilizing. So, in this episode, we hope to unpack how to recognize these hidden dynamics, understand their psychological impact, and begin the journey back to clarity, strength, and self trust. So, awareness is definitely the first step because we can be so blindsided, even believing we're in those type of relationships. Freedom is the goal. So we want to have this as an empowering discussion. So I will read a little bit more about the bio. You're a European licensed psychologist, therapist, and an author, known for developing the inner parent theory, a powerful missing piece in the framework surrounding the inner child. And I can't wait to tap into that because often the empath attracts a narcissistic relationship because an empath is seeking for love, belonging, and acceptance. And I'm speaking of experience, so hence I'm saying what I'm saying, which she delves into then deeply in You Are the Dream of the Universe. She pioneered emotional freedom techniques, EFT, in Poland, that is, and created the Inherence Process, a method for restoring connection with the deep self. Born and raised in, I can never say this, Krakow, Poland,
Yes.
spent 22 years in the United States, as she said, before relocating to the Indian Ocean coast of Africa. Also, another, I would say, it's beautiful in Zanzibar. I haven't been there. It's like another, um, for lack of a better word, it's it's like a heaven on earth, I believe they say. So you're going to tell us more about that. The newest book, The Chameleon's Game, explores the psychological traps of covert narcissism and shows the way back to self-trust and personal clarity. So before we start, before you delve into it, I have this sort of visceral feeling. Hello, Ashif. Ashif's dialing in from Canada. He's always a regular, so I'm glad to see him here again today. Before we delve in, I wanna tap into just one thing, is that labels is not necessarily what we want to do, but just from a psychological and I suppose this is like it's a disorder, but people, all of us have narcissistic traits. So I want
Yes.
us to delve into some of that for the audience so that it doesn't look like we're pointing a finger or we're in any form of judgment. The purpose of this segment is to create awareness and how we can move out of, that grudge or resentful state to anyone that has done us wrong in any shape or form, and to see the gifts and opportunities. So I just wanted to leave that for our audience, and then over to you. Tell us, where this
Uh,
all started for you.
yes. Yes. So as you mentioned, all of us who are humans, we are all humans. We, from time to time, we have a selfish behavior. It happens to all of us. There are circumstances that sometimes make us think about ourselves and our needs more than other people, and and sometimes we just have to, but it doesn't make us a narcissist, because the narcissism is a very serious and deep personality disorder. So it's just not like occasional behavior that happens from time to time to all of us. It's like a trait. It's a constant thing. It's like a foundation of existence, the selfishness in those people. And it's a disorder, so it's not like they do it on purpose. They themselves are victim of it, but it can be so severe, especially in relationships, that sometimes the only thing you can do is to leave a relationship like this with a person like that. And so there it's always about them, right? It's even if sometimes you talk about some completely neutral topic, those people have to spin it around so it becomes about them. It's always about them. And sometimes, when regular people have trauma or anxiety, they also make things about themselves. But with narcissism, they manipulate. It's like constant manipulation. So they have the attention of other people on them constantly. And so, people who have trauma or anxiety or other disorders, sometimes they may be overly focused on themselves, but they don't manipulate in a really, really cunning way sometimes. So that's the something you can recognize. But at the beginning, it's hard to spot a covert narcissist, because they are charming, they are
The love
reflecting
bombing.
love bombing. They reflect your values perfectly. They are so positive and so supportive and so vulnerable and so talking about themselves in a deep way. So you think, oh my gosh, I met my soulmate. And then once you're caught, then the script changes. And yeah.
Yes. I mean, there's this grandiosity that you speak about, it is all about them, them, them. So whether you express any form of difficulty or dis-ease or challenges, or even communicate and express yourself explicitly as to what you're going through,
Hmm.
they find a way to turn it back to them and
Yes,
bringing their issues and their challenges. And you almost, I think the term is gaslight. You almost
yes.
gaslight it to believe that, hey, but you're making something more than what is actually, you're making more of the issue than what is actually the issue, and that you feel you become the problem. I see that
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ashif says he's originally from Tanzania with Zanzibar. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Close to heart, Jambo, Karibu, and Cassia. That's
Jumbo.
amazing. So you can tell us
Yes.
a little bit more about that, Ashif. And then welcome Zahira on the Instagram side. For whoever's joining, I know I may not give attention all the time because this topic, as I say, is quite near and dear to my heart. And I like that we termed it covert because
Yes.
you don't know that the world knows them as the best people. So what the world sees outside of the home that with this COVID narcissist that you're living with is that they are high caliber people and you are
Yeah.
making up stuff, and the experience with them in the outside world versus what you're experiencing is so vastly different. So how does that then make the the victim, I don't like to call it that, but those that are going through this,
Yes.
um, they feel isolated, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, eventually, yes. But I would like to mention one thing before I answer this question, that the covert narcissism is it's about being a victim, using the word
Mm,
victim, because the grandiose narcissists say, "Oh, I'm the best. I'm the best. Everybody else is beneath me. I am the king of the world." Right? That's the grandiose narcissism. But the covert narcissism is the one who is always the victim. Oh, poor me. Oh, please pay
mm,
attention to me. Oh, save me, save me. I'm just so powerless little thing. So, and that's why it's difficult to recognize, because the normal healthy human reflex is to help, right? If you see another human being suffering, you just want to
yeah.
help. That's the regular thing. But so you do it instinctively, especially when, with professions like mine, like being a psychologist and therapist and helper,
Mm,
I see something like this, like, I want to help immediately. But those people use this, so they get the attention from you because they are so poor and they need help, and then they start manipulating it to get it more and more. And when you stop giving it to them, they will blackmail you emotionally, and they will try to get it back, the attention. Because so that's how they make themselves special. That's why it's covert, because it's not very obvious, like, oh, I'm the best. No, I'm the poor one. But in this covert way, they make themselves special, like exceptional, because I am the one in the room who is poor, and please pay attention to me and save me because I need help. So those people usually need to, they think that everybody is against them. They are victims of other people, of the mother, of the father, of government, of God, of everything. The
mm,
whole world and universe is against them. The whole universe is here to catch them, to destroy them, to hurt them. So that's the main wound in the covert narcissism, and it's very serious because they don't do it on purpose. They just strongly feel this way, but it is
mm,
devastating for the surroundings. So the only thing you can do is first educate yourself about what it is, and then try to do, if you can leave, you may. If you can't, because sometimes there are children,
mm,
there are marriages, they have children, they have other things in common they have to continue to do.
mm,
So people have to learn how to set boundaries. Um, But going back to your question, I forgot what the question was because I got so excited about answering something else.
We just flow with this conversation, so it doesn't really matter. We will, I mean, welcome Letitia that's joined on Instagram, and welcome Muhammad. Please share your stories with us or ask some questions to Cassia. I mean, I know it's difficult when you are in that relationship. What I want to actually head to is there is some research that has been done, and I see it a lot online. In fact, there's a group called Liven on Facebook. I don't know if it's pronounced correctly, but they speak about when the one partner comes from sort of that trauma background, and they didn't have what I mentioned earlier on, that love belonging. So they see the need to people please, right? So they become the rescuer and savior that you highlighted. So that seems like it will be quite a difficult one to shift from, because how does one then, if you are naturally inclined to rescue and save, because that's innately who you are in your persona and what you embody as a human being, how do you not discern between what are the signs? How do you pick up that this person is actually manipulating?
Well, after a while, I mean, in my case, the beginning was perfect, right? Love bombing and everything. And the first year was actually quite good. So that's what happens, the beginnings are good. So you remember those beginnings and you see this person who is really good to you and really caring and really supportive and helping and just good person. So you remember it. That's the hook, right? You remember it. And then when after a while, the script shifts and they become somebody else, always unhappy and trying to manipulate to get the attention, to get the admiration. It's like the love bombing ends, the period of love bombing ends, and then there's a period, another period in the cycle that's called devaluation. Suddenly they have the need to devalue you, and so then you as a person, you just at the beginning don't believe it. It's like, what is going on? I know this person. This person was great for a year or month or whatever it is. It must be just a bad day, right? So you try to justifying, explaining in your head that it's just a bad day, or maybe he or she had a difficult day at work, or maybe he or she's going through something. Maybe I should help or assist, or So you're just not believing that this is the real person because you remember the good person from the beginning, and so the hope kept me in this relationship for 10 years, hoping that it will change, it will go back to the beginning. And and because I am a psychologist and I have good tools and I know how to work with bad mood and emotions and stuff, so I was maintaining my own mood and my own emotional state through those years, trying to keep sane and calm, but always hoping that no, it's just not true. It has to go back to the beginning as it was. But finally it didn't. There was a point when it went too far and I said, no, that's enough. And I just left.
But what
So
was too far? Can I delve a little bit deeper? Muhammad, for those
yes.
that are asking, the topic is about covert narcissism. So I hope that clarifies it. And yes, true narcissism has no boundaries. It feeds on needs only. I totally agree with that. No, Muhammad, it's
Yes.
not about relationship. I'll repeat, it's about covert narcissism. What became the catalyst for you that was that turning point? Because here's somebody established and has all the tools, as you say, and you were almost navigating, almost tiptoeing around it and walking around eggshells for lack of a better descriptor, to appease him in those moments, yet slowly having a death of your soul, I suppose, because I can
Mm-hmm.
relate that that was for me. My soul was slowly dying, and that hope is there, and you hold on to it for dear life. But then just one day, it is the catalyst, it's the dark night of the soul experience, as it's referred to in the hero's journey. So, what was that dark night of the soul for you, if you are open to share? Because it does take sometimes the universe to nudge us and force our hand to say, you have to let go and surrender the hope that you've had.
Yes. Yes. So being a complete optimist and positive person, I was believing that all people are here to be happy. And through this relationship, I learned that some people just don't want to be happy. They just do everything in their power to stay miserable. So that was my lesson. But then the wake up moment for me, it was after almost 12 years of this relationship, when he started flirting with another woman online. And I caught it by complete accident. Of course, I don't believe in accidents, but it was an accident. I wasn't planning on discovering anything. It just happened right in the front of me. So I confronted him about this, and there was from that was just a quick end. Um, yeah, he denied everything. Oh, it's just a friend, Yeah, she needs help. It's just a friend. And then I dug a little bit more, and it was not just a friend. I love you texts back and forth. So it was not just a friend. And when he got confronted me and actually caught, uh, you know, corresponding with this person, he went into it's called narcissistic collapse. It's like they just disintegrate, and it's ugly. So because they cannot process shame, they cannot process guilt. So basically they cannot take responsibility for their inner world. So they just collapse like children, and and it was just the end. It took a month or maybe 1.5 months from that moment I discovered he was flirting with somebody else, and confronting him, and then he just left, and I left, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was just too much. I stopped believing. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and that's a debilitating feeling in and of itself to experience, because you had all this hope. You wanted to see
Hmm.
the best in this individual. And I suppose, had he taken ownership, this would have been a very different conversation here. But as you rightfully say, they don't take ownership because they don't like conflict. I have a friend who is a therapist, and she actually said to me, she described it as being sometimes covert narcissists or narcissists are developmentally arrested at a certain age, and
Yes.
where they got stuck in not being able to deal with confrontation. And what I love that you said, Kasia, is that they can't help it. So maybe talk to us a little bit about, the pathology around this individual, and often where it stems from, because we act based on our constructs on how we were raised, and it's often within the home. Or if it's not the home, it's even our educational systems, these different constructs or systems. But
Hmm.
from a pathology perspective, is it innate? And what is taken on from these constructs? I'd just love to learn more about that.
Yes, I mean, what psychology says about narcissism is that it's a deep, deep and serious childhood trauma, um, dysfunctional home, feeling abandoned by parents, rejected. Um, Yes, but I don't know if I'm right, but that's how I see it, working with clients for 20 years almost too, and observing really different emotional problems in people. That with personality disorder, yes, usually there must be a trauma at home, but there's something also, I think, is a generational trauma, that a child comes to with certain predisposition to develop this personality disorder. Because sometimes I hear stories from people, from clients, right? Really severe childhood trauma, the one that the hair on my spine stands up, and they don't have personality disorder. They have trauma, they have anxiety, they have depression, but they don't have personality disorder. That they are not narcissists. So there must be something else except childhood trauma that the child brings with to this world, and it combined produces this personality disorder. So that's I don't know if I'm right. It's just my observation. I don't know if there is a scientific proof to it. That's what I observe.
Would you ever dabble to do some deeper research around that? Because I mean, this is the world over, many people are experiencing this and they don't even realize it. And to your point, I
Mm-hmm.
think it is certainly, I do feel so. I was in an 18-year marriage and together for 23 years, hoped and wanted to see the best. And at heart, the person is not a bad person. And from a pathology perspective, he has no inclination that he's even responding in this way, and also can't handle conflict. And even in the co-parenting now, I see it that there isn't the ability to be the co-parents, because they still at the stage of being developmentally arrested at whatever stage it is that they had. And again, it's not necessarily a trauma um, or a core wound like abandonment and rejection. I certainly think for him, he had an accident at 15 and his entire life changed. And, you know, that could have been a different kind of trauma where he couldn't now participate in life in the way that he used to as a typical 15, 16-year-old. And I suppose the parents play a role also. So I want to come back to the generational thing, because I think you are onto something there. There is a predisposition based on their generational curse, because I left my marriage because I said I could see that the model and construct of marriage that my ex-husband was accustomed to, which was norm and acceptable for him, he couldn't understand what my needs were and why I'm asking for a change, because his construct of marriage was exactly what ours became. So I do think there are generational type of experiences and lifestyles, I don't know if that's the right word, that tends to become the version of that particular, whether it becomes covert narcissist or grandiose. It really
Yes.
depends on that.
Yes. Yes, I
Have you?
agree. There must be something more to it, yeah,
Yeah.
than just.
And so in your
Mhm.
book, I mean, you speak about the chameleon's game. What a name for a book. I mean, it's like it's intriguing. I want to know more. When did you publish the book? How long ago?
The book was published last December, and the Polish
Mm.
version of this book is going to be published this month on the 11th of
Yeah.
March.
So what made you give it the chameleon's game? Because, it changed. We know a chameleon changes based on their environment. So, but taking into consideration all of these other things we just spoke about, how does that play out in the book?
Yeah, well, the chameleon, because those people are chameleons. they they don't
Yeah.
have their own self, their own
Mm.
core self. It's really missing in those people. They don't know who they are actually. They're always looking for something, searching for something, mirroring other people, becoming other people to
Mm.
uh, be likable. Uh, they change as the circumstances change, they can be really different person, and they also change facts. I mean, that was the most fascinating thing for me. They changed facts. The facts are facts, right? You cannot change facts, but they are capable of twisting the facts the way that it fits the narrative that they like in the moment, and then they talk something completely different about the same facts in another moment, because something else is important in the next moment. So they just change the facts, the information about the facts. So they are chameleons. They are not stable, very unstable people living with a narcissist, like a roller coaster. Every day is something else. Every minute there's something else, and you never know what's going on and what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I like what Ashif is saying. He says, we are born with kindness, the rest is built, I too believe. And then Andre says, oops, there's two comments from him. Well, there's several. Understand the mother of the man that is challenged. I agree. There's merit in that. So in other words, if it's a male, what's the relationship with the mother is what I'm thinking Andre is saying. As the woman's first love is her son's, yes. And so their trauma is based on the relationship with the mother, he says. Would you like to talk to that?
Yes. Well, it is a biological phenomena that it's different when a girl is born from a woman, and it's different when it's a boy born from a woman.
Yeah.
They are different. They are different. So, not sure what to say about it. It is very important that the mother is really as whole inside as possible in the inner world, so she doesn't make the boy her partner
Yeah.
emotionally. Of course,
Yeah.
emotionally,
Codependency.
if it happens, that it's really, really bad. And those boys tend to become self-absorbed narcissists when
Mm.
yes, when the mother makes the boy a partner, unknowingly, of course. Nobody is
Yes, of
accusing
course.
anybody, yes, but those family dynamics are sometimes really difficult, and it, like we were saying before, it happens from generation to generation to
Yes.
generation, until somebody wakes up and says, no, that's enough, I'm not
Mhm.
continuing this pattern. Yeah, it happens more and more in our times. People
Yeah, and
more and more people.
Kasi, I think that so Andre may be referring to what is called the core mother wound, but then there's also the father wound, so
Mm,
ultimately what's connected to the main wound is either abandonment or rejection or that codependency. Um, so it's very difficult to point out that it's from the mother, because I can honestly say that with all the gaslighting and the changing of the facts, I used to think I'm going insane. In fact, I asked my therapist
mm.
friend, am I maybe not the narcissist? Because I started
Yes,
to think like,
yes,
hey, I'm
yes.
displaying some of these traits and outbursts, and my kids are seeing somebody who's in their masculine and almost like taking control, and the father is the victim. And I'm the
Mm,
one that's the problem. I'm the one victimizing. So at
yes.
one point, I even second guessed whether I was. And she said to me, if you're asking if you are not a narcissist, no
Mhm,
narcissist ever asked that question.
mhm.
So
Yes,
talk to us about that for some of the people out there that are listening that may be going through this and feeling like they're going insane, that they are in fact the problem when it's not really
yes,
them.
yes. That's the gaslighting with a narcissist. They always try to invalidate what you're saying, what you're thinking, and they have ways to do it, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I didn't say that. oh,
Mm,
you're just imagining it. Oh, you're too sensitive, right?
mm,
So they're
mm,
always invalidating what you're trying to explain and connect with them. And after a while, if it happens again and again and again and again, you start doubting, am I crazy? Am I here the one who is the abuser? Because the
mm,
moment I started, yes, the moment I started putting boundaries in this relationship, because at some point I got really, really tired of this treatment. So I started setting
mm,
some boundaries. The moment I started setting the boundaries, I was called
mm,
the abuser. And then later I was called the narcissist by him. Yes. So that was very interesting.
mm.
Uh, yes,
It's
because
an insane dynamic, right?
yes, they cannot process rejection.
Yeah.
Rejection for them is like death. And when you set a boundaries, meaning you say no, that's like rejection on steroids for
Mm,
them. So
mhm.
they immediately will flip the script, trying to accuse you that you're the bad person. Yes, and it happened more and more towards the end of the relationship. Yes, then
Mhm. Somebody on the
yeah,
Instagram side, Zolani, is saying the past can shape you. I
yes,
agree. It definitely can. For some of
yes.
us, I suppose, the past becomes the catalyst, as you rightfully have stated. There are people coming from really violent upbringing and really tragic experiences, but they are not displaying in NPD, right? Narcissistic
Hmm.
personality disorder. They
Oh.
may have some of those traits when triggered, but I certainly know that by far individuals that come from these volatile upbringings, I mean, I hail from somewhat of a volatile upbringing, and I strived and said, that will not be me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was not in judgment, and in fact, I'm such a deep empath that sometimes it's to our detriment. So,
Mm-hmm.
Cassia, tell us about you. Are you just a deep empath as well? And hence you could kind of navigate your tools as a psychologist. But at what point did you say, my empathic ways need to come to an end? And that doesn't feel good for us as empaths because it's our natural disposition. So, boundary setting
Yes.
for empaths is not the norm.
Yes, and you have to learn those really, especially empaths. They have to learn boundaries. Well, I remember when I was a little child, I was maybe 6 or 7. My dream already was to help people. I don't know why. It was just like that. And I
Um,
didn't have any bad childhood. I didn't have any trauma in childhood. My
mm,
parents, my family was very average. Nothing
mm,
extreme one or another way. Just regular
mm,
average family. But when I was 8, I got really sick and I went to a hospital in Poland. It was in Krakow. I went to a hospital and I spent 2 weeks in this hospital. And my mom visited me every day, bringing things and keeping me company. And I actually liked being in this hospital. I was so fascinated by what was going on there, the doctors and the nurses and everything. It was just like, wow, I'm in another world. And I remember when I was leaving the hospital with my mom after 2 weeks, I stopped and I turned around and I looked at the building and I said, Mom, I will come back one day and I will heal all those children here.
oh, look at that.
So it was kind of like a natural thing for me. I guess I was born with this,
Mm,
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 this liking to help,
mm,
and that's what happened. I went to one school, another school, third school, fourth school, all because I wanted to. At the beginning, I wanted to be a doctor, but then I decided to be a psychologist. It changed a little bit, but I guess this curiosity about how everything works and really feeling it, feeling how things work on a deeper level, that's what drives me, and that's what was driving me in that relationship too. Because on one hand, it was really hard, stand all those treatments and his moods and swings and mood swings and everything. But the other part of me was really curious and empathetic to, because I could understand, I could deeply understand, yes, he's not doing it on purpose. But on the other hand, he's doing it, so I'm suffering, right? And how to reconcile those two.
Yes.
Yes, so this relationship taught me a lot about boundaries, and I'm writing about this in the book, about boundaries and how to recognize them, how to set them without guilt, because usually empaths feel guilty when they set boundaries
Yes.
because they think they hurt the other person. So yeah, you have to learn how to let go of the hurt and allow the other person to be responsible for their own feelings. So because the empaths, they want to be responsible for, for how people feel, but
Exactly.
sometimes we have to stop because it's their feelings, not ours, and we don't have to influence it. So it's not easy to learn, but yes, you can, and yes, it is very healthy to do. And then it actually brings freedom.
Now, you said you come from an average home, a home that had love and acceptance. Let's talk about self-love and self-acceptance, because you highlighted something earlier on, that you've got to be really whole to be able to make this decision to leave. But in the wholeness, you're actually broken because of the things that you've had to endure. So it's quite there's a polarity, there's two parallels there. I've got to be whole. I'm whole within myself, but I'm so broken by this relationship, by this person, and in the suffering of it. So how do you transition into that wholeness, or in the
Hmm.
brokenness, be okay with
Hmm.
leaving? What do you hold on to?
Yes, well, you hold on to the relationship with your own deep self. That's the only thing you can actually hold on to. Oh, I mean,
Yes.
except friends who can help you, but ultimately, it's the inside job. And well, I think that everybody is whole, but not everybody
Mhm.
believes that they are whole. And
Yes.
beliefs are the things that drives us and determines our choices and how we feel. So it was a lesson of awareness, of self-awareness, because every time, well, this was my advantage because I like to understand things. So I was curious, why is it happening this way? Why? What's going on here? So it was not only the suffering, but also the curiosity. So I
Yes.
was asking those questions myself, what's going on here in this relationship? And I was digging deeper and deeper and deeper, trying to understand more and see more, understand myself and my own reactions and the question that I had,
Mm.
what am I doing here in this relationship? What am I doing here? Why? I know I should leave, but I'm still here. Why?
Mm.
I could leave, but wouldn't give me the answer. I finally found the answer at the very, very end. There was generational trauma. I'm writing about it in the book.
Mm.
But it allowed me, I understand that as long as I have, and we or I have something, let's call dark in life,
Mm.
and we have it, it means that there is part of us that needs to be discovered. If it's once it's discovered, the darkness leaves because it's not needed anymore to help us to discover. And sometimes those parts are really, really deep. We cannot
Yes.
get into those part of us on our own. We need some kind of a reflection from outside to show us what it is. And if we are willing to discover, we will discover those hidden and most beautiful parts of us. So
I love
yeah,
that you
it's
said, I love the last
yes,
part where you said that it's finding the most beautiful parts of ourselves. So even though it is a difficult relationship and there is suffering that goes along with it, and you start to feel broken in that experience, I love the Japanese kitsui thing, where something is broken, but it can be, repaired in such a beautiful way, and come out even more beautiful in the end. And so I thought that the gifts of that relationship, as hard as it might have been, is that discovery of myself, as you rightfully
yes,
say, and
yes,
discovering the parts of myself that required deep inner healing, that was attached to this narrative of
Yes.
love and belonging and acceptance, and that being placed on this pedestal of love, that was all that it needed to be, you know. And that for me it was, I didn't want to break up a happy home because I came from that broken home, so I stayed. So there is a bit of generational stuff there that was the deciding factor for me to stay. And so the beautiful uncovering or unveiling, we have to say thank you. So when I finally left, I realized I could actually have empathy for him,
Yes.
because he was only acting out of whatever generational issues he had to deal with, or traumas. And I could realize that the gift was seeing, hey, but this person's mirroring back to me where my untapped potential even was, where I was
Yes.
living in the shadows of this person because I was placing him on this pedestal as well. And so we tend to do that as well. We want to place the person on the pedestal because they love bombed us in the beginning and they've treasured
Mm-hmm.
us so beautifully that you can only see the good in them. So there
Mm-hmm.
are definite, it's not all doom and gloom, even though the conversation may feel like it's heavy, it's about narcissism. I always feel that every experience has a gift and opportunity and are catalysts for us to become
Yep.
the not whole versions, because you're right, we've always been whole, we've always been divine and beautiful, but to remember that version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
we
think
believe
that
many.
the
I'm sorry.
sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Zolani says, I think reminding about independent love in a relationship. I'm not sure
Yes.
what you mean by that, but I'm assuming that we also need to love ourselves. And Andre says, father, the relationship based with the mother, and father is what creates the son's image of future relationships. That's also quite valid. And life in every
Mm-hmm.
breath, he says. So, yeah, I mean, what are some of those gifts that you uncovered for yourself in that experience? And I mean, the gift of going to Zanzibar.
Mhm. Well, the going to Zanzibar was just part of the breakup. Um, I just didn't know exactly. Okay, so what's next? Suddenly, I have all this freedom in the world, and I didn't know what's next. And my friend called me, and she said, "Well, I have those friends who are developers, and they are developing something in Zanzibar. Are you interested? Okay, tell me more." She told me more. I said yes, and that's how it happened. So it was quick, but what I learned, the gift that I got from 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 this relationship at the end is that how to say it. I feel more connected to my own deep self
Mm,
in the way that uh, it feels like relationships in general, they are not conditions for me being happy or whole. They are just addition to my happiness and wholeness. Because if if there are parts of us that we don't know, on the level of feeling, we feel like there's part of us missing.
mm,
It's not missing, it's physically there, we just have no perception of it. So
yeah,
sometimes we look for this fulfillment outside in different things, pursuing things or relationships or families, and there's nothing wrong with it. But if we try to fill this emptiness with those external things, that's fine. But the moment it's gone, we still feel the same void, the same emptiness. It cannot be replaced by anything on the outside, even if it's your own child or mother or father or husband or wife. It cannot be replaced. This
mm,
is the very core part of us that can be only embraced by our own self-awareness, if I can say it, if it's not too
yes,
complicated. Uh,
yeah,
Once you touch it more and more and more, you just are. I can say I am, and I don't need anything. It's just
mm,
enough. It's just enough that I am here and I breathe.
mm.
Everything else is addition to it.
That's
So
very
that's what this
powerful.
relationship is all. Yes.
No, no, that's powerful. I mean, if not in a narcissistic relationship, just generally, it's quite a powerful realization to reach. I think there's a Lebanese Canadian author. Her name is Najwa Zebian or Zebian, and she also she has this. I'm not going to do justice what she writes in a book, but she says we build our homes in other people's hearts. And
Mm-hmm.
when they break our hearts or they leave, we feel empty. So
Yes.
until we can build our homes within our own hearts and come
Yes.
home to ourselves, we are never quite going to feel in any relationship, whether it
Yes.
is a covert narcissist relationship or any relationship, even with our kids, our friends, there's going to be this level of codependency that we have to be mindful of, because we also come with that little bit of codependency in some shape or form, where we have the expectations
Yes.
that the person needs to behave in a certain way or respond to us in a certain way or do certain things. And then there's the
Mm-hmm.
thing about the five love languages, and whilst I love the five love language by what's his name, Gary something,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I also think there's a limitation in that, because how can we now just focus on that person's love language when you're not going to be, and you use the word curious. In any relationship, it's curiosity and
Mm-hmm.
empathy that will make us find a beautiful symbiotic relationship. Certainly,
Mm-hmm.
that's what, in my own experience, I've uncovered when I was seeking too much outside of myself, needing to be
Mm-hmm.
validated and heard and understood and accepted outside of myself. But when you finally go within and you realize that you've always been whole, you just needed to reclaim that sovereign part of yourself. And so I think that any negative experience almost becomes the catalyst for us to
Yes.
find the magic elixir, as they call it in the Dark Night of the Soul or the hero's journey. It's that wisdom that you only unpack afterwards.
Yes. Exactly. That's how it is. Every single negative experience or a relationship, a hard relationship or a relationship with a narcissist can be used in two ways. We can become victims
Mm.
and cry how the world is unfair, or we can use it as a catalyst, like you say, because we know there's something more behind it and we just have to discover it.
Yeah, I mean, there Ashif wrote something quite profound. Ashif, is that your own? Because if you are, because you always come with these beautiful statements. If it didn't happen, we wouldn't be.
Hmm.
That's just short and sweet, but very powerful.
Yeah.
Now, let's go into, in the last few minutes of our segment, you pioneered EFT. For those that don't understand what that is, maybe just delve into that a little bit. And the inner
Mm-hmm.
parent theory, we haven't even touched on that. And
Mm.
this method called Inherence Process. If you can talk to us about a little bit more about that. And then
Yes.
equally, if people want to get in touch with you to dabble into that realm of work, or that modality, I should call it, where they can reach you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It's they call it also tapping or psychological acupressure or acupuncture. It's a um, it's a very powerful technique to release trauma, release negative emotions, release stuck energies in your body. It's based on the meridians, system of meridians in the body, and I've been using it with clients for almost 20 years, and I'm still amazed every single time when people release sometimes really heavy stuff very quickly with this method. There are so many resources online that people can find. If somebody is interested, people can find free stuff, free exercises, free instructional manuals to try it. I really encourage if you don't know what EFT is, just do one exercise. It's free. It's only 5-10 minutes, and you will see the difference. So yes, I introduced this method in Poland in 2006. I just brought it from the US by accident. I didn't mean it; it just happened. But that's how it started. Yes, and the inner parent theory. Yeah, that came to me as a result of this desire to understand how the human psyche and the human mind works. And I used to work a little bit with people using the inner child narrative, working with the inner child. But while I was working with it, suddenly, like another component of it emerged, and it was like the inner parent. And suddenly the mind popped in my head, okay, we're talking about inner child. What is the inner parent? Why we are talking only about inner child? The child doesn't exist without parent, and the parent doesn't exist without child. It's like a unit. It's like one unit with two ends, right? So I started thinking about what the inner parent is, and I wrote a whole book about it. And actually, my conclusion was, digging deeper and deeper into understanding of what just came to me, it was that the inner child has absolutely no trauma and no problems, which is kind of revolutionary comparing to what the mainstream inner child theory says. But it just suddenly I saw it, that the inner child is perfect. It has no trauma. It has no flaw. It is just pure. It was just pure power. And then there's the inner parent structure. There is a part of it, and it has problems. It has all the bad beliefs. It has. It doesn't function as a parent, as a protector, as a structure that loves, that contains the inner child. So once the inner parent structure starts really seeing what the inner child is, suddenly the whole system lights up and everything is well. And it turns out that the inner child never had a problem. It was just a projection from the inner parent structure on the child, thinking that it's unworthy or bad or evil or whatever it is. But it's never actually the truth. The inner child is the pure power, untouched, unchanged, always positive and wanting to live. It's just the inner parent structure that needs to take care of this power inside, this essence. It has some malfunctioning, and so switching around this view makes the work a lot easier for people than trying to heal something that doesn't need healing, because the inner child is just whole, perfect.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that into the conversation now, because even in my own work, and even when I'm doing, whether it's conflict resolution sessions as a facilitator, or whether I'm a coach, whatever the role is, I always say to the person, if you can see the 5-year-old version of that person you are having conflict with, or if you see yourself as the 5-year-old version who's in awe, who sees possibility and not limitations, it's exactly what you're describing right now. And it is a projection. And often I say the perceptions become our reality, right? But if we just had to change our perspective, because perception is linked to projection, because it's linked to that stories, that experiences, that belief systems, and it can be challenged, but it's so difficult when you don't realize it. But there is a way. It's when you are triggered. That, I always say, becomes the treasure. If you are triggered by your child, I find that my own abandonment, rejection wound comes through even with my kids. Like if they're not listening, or if I feel taken for granted, And then I am like reacting. I'm not even in my nurturing, responding self. Then I go in retaliate mode because I'm not feeling heard. But it's my projection of what happened in my childhood when it wasn't. I think there's a view that from 0 to 7, it's pure innocence, untapped,
Yes.
unadulterated, pure fun and awe. But from 7 and up, neurologically, the
Yeah.
prefrontal cortex and everything starts to be conditioned by
Yeah.
societal norms or the different constructs or the projections, as you
Hmm.
rightfully state. So that's
Yeah.
I think we could have a session just on that. And maybe
Yes, I
this
wrote.
to consider.
Sorry. Yes, I after I really work with the inner parent, with myself, and started working with clients, I actually put the whole theory in the book called the first book that I wrote is the "You Are the Dream of the Universe."
Mm,
So that's all about the inner child who's perfect and the inner parent who needs help because
yeah,
it projects
yeah,
really wrong things on the poor child, and the poor child is waiting for the inner parent to show up so it can play with life, and the inner parent is so preoccupied with believing all those completely
yes.
unnecessary things. Yes.
I think we need to get you back to have a segment just on that. So you should go and have a look and see what is available and then book it, and then let's have another chat around that. But we
My
have
pleasure.
reached the end of today's conversation, and I'm glad I waited because it was
Oh, thank
very
you.
empowering, extremely, uh, very valuable information and insightful that I take away with me. And I'm always grateful because I get to learn. I'm grateful for whoever showed up on LinkedIn and YouTube and Instagram, but I feel so, treasured because I get to grow and learn and expand my own knowledge
Mm.
and wisdom and experience. And every guest is a mirror to me as well as they are talking. So I want to ask you to have the last say, to have one final closing comment or golden nugget or insight or wisdom that you want to share with our audience that have stayed with us today.
Yes, my biggest discovery, and I think it's just the same for all humans, that we are whole inside. We are perfect. We are exactly as we are supposed to be. Just the perception of it needs to change,
Mm,
and it's totally doable. I can say that the more we know ourselves deeply, the authentic self, the more we are connected to our essence, the the world literally becomes different. Uh, because the if we feel whole inside, we start seeing the same things in a really different way. So the world is still the same, but it changes. it's
yeah, yeah,
it We process it differently, and as a feedback, we receive different things from life, from world, from people. So everything starts inside, and that's the place that all of us have access to. We don't have to ask for permission. It's there. We don't have to beg for it. We don't have to look for it. It's there. It's just we have to turn the attention the right way inside and feel the essence more and more and more, and then things just happen. Things just
So
happen.
I'm grateful for your presence and your calmness. Stay with us. I'm going to end our live, but I normally do a short debrief. And I'd like to close it off by saying a lot of what we discussed here is actually very much aligned to shifting from that grudge state, that state of resentment and victim consciousness, and moving into grit and resilience, not toxic resilience, and giving yourself grace as well as so that you can extend it to others and living from a place of gratitude. So, on that note, thank you for being here, Ashif, and everyone on LinkedIn and Instagram and YouTube. And those that are watching the replay, go and find Cassia if you have any questions. I know she's got a few different profiles. I have connected with you on LinkedIn. You just have to accept, and then I will tag you on the post when necessary. So I'll end the live and we'll see you again next week. But before I go, what we didn't say, because we started off on some of the technical challenges, my co-host Shamila is busy with a 3-month beautiful opportunity and assignment. So she's on pause with the segment until further notice and will join us again, hopefully within the next 3 months. I honestly forgot to mention that at the start, and I hope somebody that's going to listen to the end will know this. But we do look forward to seeing you again. So thank you. Until next time, stay with me, Cassia.